So now that we understand some of the things that lead to an increase in fat mass, I want to focus our next module on how we can lose some of that fat mass from the body. But before I go into this, I want to just stress that not everyone has a weight-centered approach, and not everyone is trying to lose weight. For some people, discussing their weight is very, very uncomfortable and very, very traumatic as well. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more in next module, how to kind of work with individuals to figure out what approach is going to work best for them. Okay, that said, just to give you an overview of what promotes weight loss, and in particular fat loss from the body, and you probably know this, at its very reductionist view, when energy expenditure is higher than energy intake, we take lipids from our adipose tissue and we metabolize them, and then those fuels, the ATP that's captured from that, can be used to fuel our different body needs. We also get some energy from glycogen, but that's pretty minimal. But it's also important to note that when people are at an energy deficit, they're also going to end up breaking down body proteins for amino acids, which can also be metabolized. And that's one of the main reasons we recommend a two-pronged approach of energy restriction plus, especially weight-bearing physical activity, in order to maintain protein mass, lean mass, while someone is losing fat mass. Okay. The other key point on this slide that I want to stress is that an energy deficit has to be consistent to promote really significant results. Okay, so 1 week of an energy deficit, 3 weeks of an energy deficit may not make a big impact. For me, it takes 6 weeks of an energy deficit to see any difference whatsoever. Okay, which is another major theme here, is that everyone's a little bit different when it comes to fat loss from the body. But this is kind of how it works at a very simplistic level. Okay, all diets, all commercial and non-commercial diets out there, be it the keto diet, intermittent fasting, low carb, etc., they work. They have all these different promotions about how they work, but at their essence, at the kind of bottom line, how they work is they promote a caloric deficit. Maybe they promote a caloric deficit because your eating window is small and you can only eat so many calories during that eating window. Perhaps they promote a caloric deficit because you're eating more filling foods, like fat-rich and protein-rich foods, okay, which is a low carb as well, and you're limiting the amount of foods that a person can eat, so they end up eating less foods overall. Okay, and some of these diets, like the keto diet, like the low carb diet, they often promote a big initial drop in weight too, because of a loss in water weight. Okay, and that's what always breaks my heart when someone's like, I started my new diet and I've lost 5 pounds this week, and I'm like, well, that's water weight. I won't say that to them because that's not helpful, but they're in for a surprise when that 5 pounds or whatever it is isn't consistent, because there's only so much water weight to be lost, and it often comes back too. Okay, but at their bottom line, there's no magic pill. All it is a caloric deficit. So as health promoters, if someone does want to lose fat from their body, we're going to start working with them to figure out how do we promote a caloric deficit in a way that's sustainable and fits their lifestyle. Okay. As a side note, just kind of a point of interest, when people do lose fat from the body, the majority of that fat, where does it go? People think it gets lost as heat, or they actually don't, or we pee it out. Some people think. The majority of fat that's lost from the body, we exhale. Okay, so if you remember from your cellular respiration equation, right? Fuel plus oxygen burning a fuel in oxygen leads to a production of water, CO2, and ATP. Okay, and the majority of the weight that we lose from the body, we actually blow it off. It doesn't mean that if you just hyperventilate, you just make yourself exhale more, you're going to lose more weight. You actually have to metabolize fuels because of an energy deficit to do that. Okay, but just a side note there. Okay. The issue these days with many weight loss approaches is that they are short-term and they are not sustainable. And they're often really dramatic and really kind of like shock the body. And yeah, you pretty much go on any diet, any of the ones that were on the other slide, or any other ones that are on there, or any kind of like detox pills, or like whatever other things people take, yeah, you're going to lose weight. Probably going to lose water weight in the beginning, maybe some fat loss as well, some muscle loss too. But after a while, we often see a drop in weight, and then we often see a plateau, okay, especially with a fad diet. Why does that plateau occur? Often because we've lost the water weight, one. The other reason is the metabolism tends to slow down. Another reason is our appetite might actually increase, or our psychology might change too. Like if you tell me not that I can't eat chocolate, I'm going to be thinking about chocolate all the time, and I'm going to be like wanting chocolate. When you tell people to restrict, the brain's like, I don't want to restrict, you know, and we actually want it. When you tell someone you can't have something, they like want it even more. Okay, and because of that, like a combination of those factors, a lot of people cannot maintain these diets. They don't fit their lifestyles. You know, they go away with their friends for the weekend and party or whatever, and they blow their diet and they're like, F it. Because whatever they were doing was not sustainable and it didn't fit in with the lifestyle they had. So it's hard to keep up. Okay, and then people regain the weight, they're dissatisfied again, and then they go back to whatever diet worked before. This is something called weight cycling, also known as yo-yo dieting, and it often actually looks more like this. Okay, that weight actually tends to increase over time with some of this weight cycling. And what I really want to encourage you guys, if you are working with individuals with obesity or that are higher in size that do want to lose weight, please take it in an approach of a lifestyle-based change, not a quick change. And I know that's hard because you want to show them quick results and you want to show them that it works. And that's why we want to manage expectations with the people we work with. And this is an area where it's hard to manage expectations because people will be like, no, that other person did it. No, this person lost 5 pounds in a week. Why can't I do that? You know, and then we have to manage their expectations and be like, yeah, okay, fair. But if something is going to be long-term and sustainable, we're going to probably have to take a different approach. And we're going to have to take an approach that takes into account your lifestyle and that's actually manageable and reasonable for you. Okay, and that's something that we would do like in the preparation stage, you know, of the stages of change model. Okay, so ideally, what we want is for someone to achieve their best weight, and there's no number. Okay, so best weight, this is according to a book called Best Weight, which is by kind of the two big names in Canada when it comes to obesity, which is Dr. Arya Sharma and Dr. Yanni Freehoff. And they wrote this book to help practitioners, you know, manage working with individuals with obesity. So they said, love this, that a person's best weight is whatever weight they achieve while living the healthiest lifestyle they, oh my God, can truly enjoy. There comes a point when a person cannot simply eat less or exercise more and still like their life. Oh my God, that's so brilliant. You know, we want ideally for a person to find a weight that they can still be themselves at, that they can still do fun things at, that they can still go to Christmas dinner or Easter dinner or enjoy whatever else with, okay, birthday parties, etc. with. What's that sweet spot where you're living healthy, but you're also enjoying your life and your mental well-being is okay and your social well-being is okay? Where is that sweet spot? And again, this kind of speaks to that managing expectations place with the people you work with, okay? So, speaking of things that might work more sustainably, we can look at something called the National Weight Control Registry, which is an American database of information about people that have lost 30 pounds or more and kept it off for at least 5 years. And when we look at weight loss maintainer, the majority changed both their food intake and physical activity. And the majority exercised for about an hour a day. And the most commonly reported type of physical activity was walking. So we often think people have crazy ideas about what they need to do to lose fat mass, but something as simple as walking, because it's sustainable, because it's like low impact, because it can be fun, and it's not too daunting. Something as simple as being regularly walking can have a really significant effect on someone's weight and their quality of life too, okay? Something else that bothers me a lot about obesity is that we often think of individuals with obesity, or a common myth about people with obesity is they have no willpower. And what I'll say to that is, if you ask anyone, or the majority of people with obesity, have you tried to diet before? They will probably say that they have. And if you ask them how many diets have they been on, they have probably been on a bunch of them. And the issue is that they've often been on those types of diets that promote yo-yoing and that are not sustainable at the end of the day. Okay? And we have to talk about willpower, but willpower is not enough for most people, right? Willpower, it's your prefrontal cortex overriding all the other signals that are coming in, let's say, to your appetite center. So remember all those other signals that your appetite center is receiving. And now this little part of your brain, okay, pretty important part of your brain, but this part of your brain is trying to override it all. Okay, and it's just not strong enough. It's just, for some people it is, but for a lot of people it isn't. Because those internal signals and sometimes external signals are powerful. The research clearly shows that willpower can be exhausted. The more we ask people to use their willpower, the less they have kind of later on to make willpower-based decisions. The research also shows that individuals, they kind of lose willpower at the end of the day, like it's the lowest at the end of the day. And that's why we often recommend something called skill power. Okay, so instead of just relying clearly only on your prefrontal cortex to make good decisions for us, and don't get me wrong, attitudes, intentions, these are all great. It's really important, but we also need to help a person out, make it a bit easier. Okay, and if you look through this, like implementation intentions are a lot of these things, like laying your exercise clothes out, minimizing temptations in the immediate environment. That's something called stimulus control. Keep healthy food options in sight. That's something called environmental cueing. All these things are things we can work with someone with to help develop a plan that's going to make it easier on them to make good decisions. Okay. You'll notice that I haven't talked much about exercise, and that's on purpose, because there is a myth out there that exercise alone is enough to make a big difference in an individual with obesity. And don't get me wrong, physical activity is I'm a huge fan. It's one of the best things that we can possibly do for our physical, mental, and social well-being. But when it comes to weight loss, it helps for sure. It burns calories, yeah. It increases metabolic weight. It can improve things like depression and anxiety. It can improve self-efficacy and self-esteem, sure. Or self-esteem more, sure. But it takes a lot of exercise, moderate to vigorous levels of physical activity. It takes a lot of it to make a clinically significant difference in someone's weight. When I say clinically significant, on average, 5 pounds, not that much. Depends on, that's a generalization, it depends on the person. Okay, so yeah, physical activity is important. It's absolutely part of someone's overall health plan. It's absolutely something we recommend for someone that's trying to manage their size, but it doesn't have as big of an effect typically as moderating diet, okay, or decreasing food intake. A good way to remember this is this line. It is very easy to out-eat exercise. So for instance, if I were to go run on a treadmill for 30 minutes, max, I'm going to burn 300 calories. How quickly can I eat 300 calories? 4 to 5 Timbits is about 300 calories. Like that. I can eat it. So cookie, 300 calories. So easy. Next part of that line, it's nearly impossible to out-exercise overeating. When someone overeats, but people can overeat 1,000, 2,000 calories a day in some cases, right? it would take a long time at the gym to out exercise that. Okay, and that's why we recommend caloric restriction. Okay, healthy caloric restriction that takes into account someone's lifestyle more than just over exercising. But of course, that two-pronged approach is what we recommend more than anything else. Okay, so something to keep in mind when you're working with individuals in a weight-based approach.